Congratulations to Mother's Milk Bank of Louisiana for being named the 2020 Louisiana AAP Chapter Service Award recipient. I'm Ashley Poley, the Executive Director of the Louisiana chapter, and I'm so excited to have Dr. Harley Ginsberg and Shelly Tebow with us from Mother's Milk Bank. They're going to tell us a little bit about the program, how it came to be, and all the amazing things that they are doing for their community with this process. So Dr. Ginsberg, I will let you just tell us a little bit about kind of what you're doing there.
Well, thank you very much, Ashley. And I would like to thank the Louisiana chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics for this honor. It means, and I can't tell you how much this means to the staff of the Milk Bank. And as you said, this has been a long time labor of love for a lot of us. Beginning in 2015, we were just going over the idea of becoming a human milk depot. I think the science certainly preceded all that, where neonatologists now know the value of donor human milk, especially for the most fragile babies, the most premature babies that can be afflicted with terrible intestinal complications, many of which are related to the use of commercial formulas. And decades ago, the idea of everything from milk sharing to then moving to pasteurization, and now much more science is behind this. The use of pasteurized donor human milk from vetted donors really has come into its own and is even more popular now than it was last year and the year before. What we did at Mother's Milk Bank was first we became a depot. And what that meant was we were a pass-through. We partnered with the Human Milk Bank Association member in Austin, Texas, and Himbana banks are all donor related, so that there are no mothers paid for donating milk. This is strictly all a donor situation, just like a blood bank would be. Once we started learning more and more about what it took to be a milk bank, it became quite an undertaking, and just realizing everything from the volume of milk that passed through to the cost of what it was going to be to develop something like this. And so we took it upon ourselves to not only learn about how to be a depot, but also started with them mentoring us and continuing to see whether or not we could be a real human milk bank. And that meant that we were going to do the vetting, we were going to have the facilities, we were going to have the personnel, and of course be able to offer this to babies needing this throughout the state of Louisiana. And in fact, we've actually been able to send some milk out of state for those babies that need it in neighboring states. But once we decided we would undergo the evaluation and then fundraising and looking at all the architectural drawings and the equipment and the personnel, this then took on about 2 to 3 years to be able to raise the funds, have everything that we needed. And by spring of 2018, we were able to be accredited by the Human Milk Bank Association of North America. In so doing, we were incredibly fortunate to have Shelly join us. Shelly's an ex-NICU nurse, if there is such a thing, because I think they're NICU nurses for life, regardless of where they are. And she is our director of the Mother's Milk Bank of Louisiana, and has been just incredibly instrumental in terms of doing all the footwork that it takes on a day-to-day, sometimes hour-to-hour, and frequently night-to-night basis to vet the moms, collect the milk, have it shipped, have it cultured, have it pasteurized, recultured, and there are other steps in between that Shelly's going to go through. But in order to get that milk from a donor mom in an outlying parish to New Orleans and then sent to an NICU where a physician has ordered the milk for a patient. Shelley, I think if you want to continue on here.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ashley, and thank you, Louisiana chapter of AAP, for this honor. It's incredible for us to receive this. Dr. Ginsburg is the dream and the passion and power behind this development. I just had the blessing of operationalizing it, and we did it with a huge team. It's grateful to be within Ochsner Health System. We had an abundance of help throughout their different systems. And then to be able to operationalize it and spread the donor milk across the state was actually my job. Spreading this across the state, Dr. Ginsburg, again, was instrumental. He has a lot of fellow colleagues, neonatologists across the state that he communicated with, kind of opened the door for us. And then it was our job to go through and either meet administration, meet the NICU directors, and often the lactation teams are the drivers of getting donor milk inside their facilities. And then, of course, it finally, conversing with purchasing so we can set up actually getting the milk. Currently, we also created depots. Depots are our satellite storage units. The donors really appreciate that because they can drive their milk to the satellite storage unit, but then it also helps us to have more milk within our system. And in the hospital setting, they talk about patient throughput. I talk about milk throughput. I need to move all the milk to the milk bank. I need to process it, and then we need to have it shipped back out to the NICUs. So currently we're serving 15 units in the state. We have a hospital in every city except Lake Charles that is receiving milk. So we're very, very excited about that. And then thank you again to Dr. Ginsburg. This is all his network of colleagues that he's been able to open the doors for us. Currently, our inventory is pretty impressive. We've received 1,800 gallons of milk to date from about 325 donors. So that's a lot of milk per donor. Our highest donor was actually a NICU nurse, and she donated 58 gallons herself. We were the 24th milk bank to be accredited by Habana. Habana has been instrumental in helping us learn all the processes. All of their guidelines are standardized. The donor screening involves Dr. Ginsburg. He has to be the final review of the application. The application is a review of healthy lifestyles, any medications that they're taking, past travel experiences, because we're ruling out things like mad cow, Ebola. And then we also now conduct a COVID screening. So we stay up to the current times with what we need to screen. They also get lab work, much like you would get for blood bank. And that's where Dr. Ginsburg comes in. He's the final review of all those results. Once the donor's approved, we can set her up with either depot deposits or depositing straight to us. That's a very efficient process. And we have a donor program coordinator that handles all the application of the donors as well as shipping the milk into the milk bank. It's a full-time job. She's wonderful at what she does. And then we have a team in the lab. We have some milk technicians that are actually processing the milk. They have to undergo competency checklists from Habana. They have to be food certified or food handler certification through the FDA. So it's a very unique role. Once we get them in, we have to practically train them from scratch because we don't know very many people that actually are food processing facilities, except for the dairy industry. And we don't get any people from the dairy industry applying to the milk bank. So we're basically training people from scratch, but we have a very devoted team. And I'd really, at this point, like to show you what actually happens in the lab. Would that be okay? Let me figure out how to do this. Sorry, it'll take me a minute. And I'll share this.
What an amazing process and information. This is absolutely incredible.
Thank you. Let me see if this is going to work. There we go. Can y'all see it? So this is the first step where they're straining the milk just for any artifacts that could have happened when the mother was pumping. And you can see it's a busy operation. Each tray has a donor's milk. We transfer all the milk to the flasks, and this is the homogenation stage. We want the flasks to have the same nutrition content across all. So you can see them pouring and swirling between flasks. The next step is to inspect all the bottles. All the bottles have to be BPA free and heat resistant, so the plastic doesn't leach out while we're pasteurizing. We individually hand pour each 3-ounce bottle. And then they cap them. The caps have to be sealed, much like a cap that you find on water bottles. Everything has to be labeled so we know which batch is what when we pull them all out of the pasteurizers. We're filling that up, and that's actually the pasteurizer. that basket weighs about 20 pounds. We have a thermometer that checks the temperature, and then we put them in ice. They have to get to 4 degrees. And then the last final stage, and very important, is we need to test the milk to make sure it's free from bacteria. And then we also have a nutrition analyzer where we analyze the nutritional content of the milk, and we actually are able to put that on the label for the NICU team to be able to understand what they're receiving. And that's our inventory. As you can see, it takes a lot of people. I call it a village.
What an incredible process, and to see it play out is absolutely amazing.
One of the things I would like to share with all the members of the Academy and those that are viewing this is to understand that the finances behind a milk bank are really not meant to be a profit generating center. They are meant to truly work at just barely a break-even point. And we never have done any of this without all the philanthropic efforts by both the philanthropic team here at Auctioner, as well as all the donors. And those donors included everybody from NICU nurses and employees to Baptist Community Ministries, Methodist Health System, the Golden Ring Foundation. We had the Kellogg Foundation, as well as I think we had, who else am I missing, Shelley?
Baptist Community Ministries, Methodist Health System.
Yeah, I said, we had, early on, we had donations from groups in New Orleans as well. So it's been the fundraising that needed to take place just to get this off the ground. There were no state funds received. This was totally philanthropic. And then to keep it going, we work with grants, but we also, certainly is a cost to the milk. So it's a very valuable commodity, not only just because we've got moms donating it and they're working really hard, but also our job is to keep that cost down as much as possible, because you have to recognize that there's shipping costs, there's costs for the cultures, there's costs for the bottles you saw in the video, but the Junior League of New Orleans was instrumental with getting us going with a small grant at the beginning. So we've had a lot of contributors, people that everything from $5 a paycheck up to much larger donations from these organizations. And so when we do when this does generate a bill that the hospitals are responsible for, that we should all recognize that this is a very, you saw the labor intensive work that goes in there, the equipment that's involved. So the more that we have people recognizing the value of this and using it as more than, even though, as Shelley said, they're technically food processors, they're really handling a medication as far as we're concerned. In fact, when I describe it, I tell people that this is the equivalent of an immunization, because for some of these, this is the only source of immunity they're going to get. And if they're not getting their own mother's milk, then although it is affected by the pasteurization process, it's just so far superior to commercial formula that in some hospitals across the country, they don't even ask a family for consent to use donor human milk. It's considered standard of care. And so if a mother cannot provide, or she's had multiples, or maybe she's had surgery or is receiving chemotherapy as soon as she delivers a baby for her own health, donor human milk is a go-to. And you almost need an excuse not to use that. And I think anybody that's treated babies with necrotizing enterocolitis or any other feeding intolerances definitely understands the dramatic difference between human milk and commercial formula. And there's no reason for any baby that's preterm to be exposed to commercial formula when either maternal milk or donor human milk is available to them. Unfortunately, we'd like to have every NICU in the state of Louisiana using milk from a Louisiana milk bank. And that's not quite the case. We're working on it, but we know that there are some organizations that are still purchasing milk. It's from a Himbana bank, so at least it's donor human milk from that organization. We're hoping that they'll start considering coming to us for their milk because we're just going to be a little bit more proximal, and you're getting your milk from Louisiana moms.
Wonderful. Well, I would like to ask if there are folks who want to get involved with you guys, whether through connecting for their patients or for making donations to kind of help you continue what you're doing. Is there a website or contact number that would be best to provide that?
Shelley?
Our Milk Bank line and our webpage is on mothersmilkbank.org, and all of that information is on there. We also have a Facebook account, Mother's Milk Bank of Louisiana, and they can follow us on there. We have all the contact information on there. And amazingly, word of mouth is how most of our people reach us. You know, it's moms reaching other moms, and it's lactation nurses reaching other lactation nurses. It's administrators getting in touch with other administrators. It really is a relationship building experience to grow the milk bank.
Well, this is so wonderful. I'm so excited to be able to give this award to you guys. Certainly very well deserving. So congratulations again on being the 2020 Chapter Service Award recipient from Louisiana AAP.
Well, again, thank you very much for our consideration. And, you know, we're working to make Louisianians proud. So this would be also we plan on showing to many people, because we do get visitors to the milk bank. We certainly have a lot of folks that pass by and watch the process being done. So I think from the Academy standpoint, from Louisiana standpoint, and the fact that, as Shelley brought up, there's only 24 in the country and 2 states have 2. So that means there's only 22 states in the country with their own milk banks. It's really a proud time for all of us.
Very impressive. Well, thank you all again.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.